Hey guys, welcome back to Tidal Gardens. So this past weekend I went to MACNA and I was going to do a quick show reel to show you guys kind of what MACNA was like. However, didn't spend a lot of time actually at MACNA, so the footage that I have is kind of a little bit sparse, a little bit sporadic. So you can kind of have to imagine what it might have been like to go to MACNA based on this video. So this is probably going to be the least helpful MACNA video that anybody's going to produce. So MACNA this year was in New Orleans, and this show was admittedly a little bit slower than past shows. If you follow the news at all, there's kind of a big deal over in Texas, and there was a lot of concern that that storm was going to make its way over to New Orleans. And so a lot of people didn't show up to this event. I think that some of the statistics I heard was like 400 rooms or something like that were canceled. So, that might have been like 1,000 people that didn't show up. And there was also about 6 or 7 vendors that didn't make the trip either. So it turns out that the weather really wasn't an issue. We actually had really nice weather. And I was about to say nice weather. It was blazing hot. It was blazing hot and sunny. So clearly it was good weather in the sense that you're not getting hit by a hurricane. Bad weather in the sense that it was blazing, like 95-degree hot. And I think the rains really only came once everybody was leaving, like on Monday. Still, the people that showed up got to see a pretty good show. So let's take a look at the show reel now. Probably the thing that I look forward to most during MACNA is actually just seeing people that I know from the industry that I haven't seen in a really long time. It's kind of a nice place where everybody kind of gathers and gets to catch up on whatever stories have gone on that past year. So I met up with a lot of YouTubers basically, and got to also meet up with some of the vendors that I work pretty closely with. And I do have to give a shout out to Omega C. I went with a group of friends, and they're not even in the hobby at all. And Omega gave them all passes in order to attend the show and kind of like, I don't know, walk around with me while I did my thing. So I really appreciate it to the Omega folks. So like every year with MACNA, you can kind of expect 2 different types of booths. You can expect the manufacturers that are kind of displaying either existing products or new product launches. In these bigger shows, that's typically when the bigger announcements are made. The second type are going to be coral vendors. And there were quite a lot of really good ones. I typically see so many corals that oftentimes seeing more corals can get a little bit boring. But the nice thing about shows like this is all the different coral vendors try to bring their best corals along. And I actually did see a whole bunch of new and interesting pieces that I really wasn't expecting to see. I'm definitely planning on reaching out to those coral vendors, and perhaps like I can acquire some of these pieces that I don't often see. I guess the really big news from the show are a lot of the new fish that are being captively bred. This is kind of a trend that's been going on for the past few years now, but more and more different types of fish are being captively bred. And this year, the stuff that took the biggest headlines was there's a particular kind of anthias that was, I think, rare in the hobby to begin with, that's now available captive bred. And there's also a new variety of, or actually like a group of angels. I mean, there was a new company that was just launched, I think it's like Poma Labs, and they are now selling conspic angels, which I think for the longest time have been one of the most expensive angelfish. And I believe that the price tag is still astronomically high for them, but at least now there is a captive breeding program for them. And lastly, of course, there's the display tanks. I can't imagine how much work goes into putting together these show display tanks. I mean, I've only been an exhibitor one time at MACNA, and it is a lot of work to put together your booth and the display, and just like for your frag tanks and whatnot, because I was a coral vendor at the time. And to see some of these big show tanks get put in for like the manufacturer displays, I mean, they're like full-size, gigantic aquariums. And I'm just like thinking about like the portage fees that they must have to pay, just the amount of time and energy that they have to put into that, and moving all those fish and corals in, and then putting that whole aquascape together. I mean, it's a monumental task. So shout out to those guys. I mean, I can definitely appreciate the amount of effort it takes to do that. All right, guys, that pretty much does it. I wish that I was able to spend more than a few hours at MACNA, but New Orleans is one of those towns where you can kind of get into a lot of trouble. And I don't know if I got into a lot of trouble, but it definitely kept me pretty occupied. You know, such a big weekend anyways. I mean, like the same time that MACNA is going on, there's like the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather fight. There was like the season finale of Game of Thrones. It was a pretty busy weekend. Oh, and by the way, this entire weekend, I don't think that anybody in my group didn't have a drink in their hand. So it was like, kind of like, in many ways, herding drunken cats all weekend. So hopefully we're going to be able to put it together a little bit better next year. However, next year's MACNA is going to be in Las Vegas, so we'll see. Good luck, I guess, right? All right. I'll see you guys next time.